It's James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and in today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to play Tangled Up in Blue. You may notice there's a bar chord in there, the F sharp minor bar chord, but I'm going to show you how to play it in a simpler way. So we can make kind of a beginner-ish or late beginner version out of this tune. Otherwise, the stuff's pretty simple. It's in the key of A. We're starting out on an A chord, and then we're going to go down to G. And if you're not 100% comfortable with the basic chord shapes, I have a free ebook. It's free for all my subscribers. It'll help you out with all the guitar basics. I'll put a link down below in the description so you can get your copy. Anyways, we have A going into G, and I recommend practicing that many times, till it's comfortable. We do that a couple times, and then from G we go into D, and we can leave our ring finger down. Pivoting from G to D like that, it's a great way to add some efficiency to your switches and lock into the rhythm better, because when your switches are quicker and more predictable, you don't skip a beat. And I'll just write out the chords here. So you can see A to G a couple times and then a D chord a couple times. Every one of these symbols is counting to 4, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4. And that's something that I find is missing when you just look the tab up online. Like, it'll show you the chords in the right order, but you don't know how long to play each one for. So I've made a point of showing you exactly how long to play each one for, and A, G 3 times, and then 2 measures of D. A measure equals counting to 4. And here, things get a little bit different. We go from an E chord into F sharp minor, and that can be a bar chord. And if you're ready for that bar chord, that's awesome. We just bar the 2nd fret and then add our ring finger to the 4th fret of the A string and our pinky just underneath it. You could even reinforce the bar by using your middle finger to help squeeze down your index. But if that's not 100% comfortable, do not push it, do not force it. You can work on it a little bit. I have a much better method for that though, that involves learning some simpler shapes. First, I'll put a link down below if you're curious. But an easy way to play F sharp minor is like that. So I have my index on the 2nd fret of the thickest string, and it's going to kind of automatically mute the A string. Then I'm playing an A chord with my middle ring and pinky. I'm pressing the same spots, 2nd fret on D, G, and B, and I kind of got to squeeze them all in there. That's the hardest part with this shape. But that's a pretty good alternative that sounds nice and beefy, nice and F sharp minor E. And we come from an E chord, so I would practice going E into whichever version of F sharp minor you're doing. And then we go to A, and if you're playing F sharp minor this way, just remove your index, and then D. And we do that again, E, F sharp minor, A, D. And then we finish up with 2 measures of E. And here, you'll see that we're going from G to D halfway through the measure. So they're sharing a measure. We go 1, 2 on our G chord, then we switch to D for beats 3 and 4. And then we have our little intro thing, which we'll go over in a sec. Let's just stick with the chords that we have here. Now at this point, we've gone over all the little details in our chord order. And before we add the strumming, a really critical step that a lot of people skip over is just counting it out and making sure that you're playing every chord the right number of times. And this is actually a great opportunity to sing the song as well. I'm at 108 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Early one morning, the sun was shining. I was laying in bed, wondering if she changed at all, if her hair was still red. Her folks, they said our lives together sure was gonna be rough. They never did like Mama's homemade dress. Papa's bank book wasn't big enough. I was standing on the side of the road, rain falling on my shoes, heading out for the East Coast. Lord knows I've paid some dues getting through. And then 2 on G and D. Tangled up in blue. You know, you might be excited to just jump into the strumming, but these extra little steps and making sure that you can play downstrokes and count out loud to all the chords, especially in the trickier parts, that's going to make the difference, right? Anyways, the next phase of our learning adventure is going to be adding the strumming pattern. It goes like this. I'll do it slowly. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So our pattern goes root, root, down, down, up. It's very important that we add it to some counting. And I would learn it in 2 parts. The first half is really straightforward, just going root, root. Root just means to hit the thicker strings of that chord shape. So on an A chord, you know, we're just aiming there and we just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And you might have to explore with each chord, like what sounds good. Like on a D chord, you can't do your root down here on the thickest string. You got to do it in the middle. You know, it's the lowest notes of that chord shape, not the lowest strings on the guitar. And then the second half of the pattern is down, down, up. It's a pretty straightforward pattern. You know, we have a downstroke on beat 3 and then a down, up on 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, down, down, 1, 2, down, down. And I recommend practicing it just like that, you know, with your body moving, counting out loud, putting the whole thing together. Root, root, down, down, root, root, down, down, root, root, down, down. Do it a whole bunch of times in a row. Switch chords if your fingers get tired. Like my fingers are getting tired of pressing this A chord. I'm getting those lines, you know, those crazy lines just pushing into my fingers. I haven't played this guitar in particular in a while, and it's like 5 degrees colder than room temperature in here right now. So anyways, and before we add this strumming pattern to the entire song, let's actually take a look at that intro because it's very simple. We start off on an A chord, we do our strumming pattern once, and then we add our pinky to the 3rd fret of the B string. We're still holding the rest of the A chord. This makes A sus 4, and we just do our pattern again. So this is a great switch to practice this pattern with, since we're only adding and removing a finger. And that's our intro. And as well as at the end of the entire chord order, we kind of play that, kind of just to give like an instrumental break before we start singing the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. I don't know, there's a ton of verses in this song. Anyways, now that we have our strumming pattern down, let's add it to our chord progression. You're going to play it 1 time per chord shape, per chord symbol, except at the very end when we go from G to D. Remember how they're sharing a measure? There we're just going to play down, down, up on each chord. So just like the second half of our pattern on each of those chords. I'm going to set my metronome to 124 beats per minute. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I was laying in bed, wondering if she'd change it all. Her hair was still red. Folks said our lives together sure was gonna be rough. They never did like Mama's homemade dress. Mama's bank book wasn't enough. I was standing on the side of the road, rain falling in my shoes, heading out for the East Coast. Lord knows I paid some dues getting through. Tangled up in blue. And if you're interested in taking the song one step further, there's a separate video here on YouTube where I teach the intro going like with all all those little nuances and everything. But the whole point is I'm not teaching you how to memorize it. I'm teaching you how to learn things like that and like take it in steps. So it's a whole lesson on how to learn, and you end up, figuring out the intro to Tangled Up in Blue like it is on the recording. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoy learning guitar with me, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, take a look at my free ebook, or even check out my premium courses. That's the best way to help support the channel. Otherwise, have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.